to pay almost $68,000
in investigatory cost.
In fine, yeah, maybe.
So what's a store supposed to do? People want to buy frozen fish.
Right.
Not fresh fish, but frozen fish. So they want to buy it out of the freezer. It's in the freezer. And what? They should weigh it before they freeze it? If you weigh it before it's frozen, it will spoil. The fish is frozen as soon as they get it. Now, I mean, this sounds like...
the judge had a suggestion.
What was his suggestion?
His suggestion was, and I'm going to quote, he said, rinse the ice off the fish before it's weighed.
Yeah, but it's frozen inside, too. That's an interesting situation. I want frozen fish.
Yes.
The market weighs it. I guess what would have happened if they took the average weight of water and for the size of the fish and then automatically deducted that amount from every piece of fish they sold?
I think...
they do that for the container it's in.
I think the naturally appearing fluid in the fish, whether it's frozen or not, is something that's part of the fish, so you pay for it. I think what the problem was that there was extra water on top of the fish that formed as the fish was being frozen.
Well, is water heavier when it's wet or when it's frozen?
No.
What? When you buy a piece of fish,
yes.
Can you imagine what the laws come down to? You've got two very competent
fishmongers
talking about.
We don't need lawyers. We need fishmongers.
We did fish, and we did late payments. But I mean, I wasn't very good at physics, so if I put this water on you and froze you, would the water be heavier in the cup, liquid, or would it be heavier frozen?
It's the same weight.
It is the same weight.
It's the same weight, but the reason that ice floats is because it increases in volume.
Oh, so...
That's why ice floats.
So then why would the fish be any heavier if it was frozen?
Because the water doesn't belong there at all. That's why.
No, they hose every fish down with water.
I understand that, but they don't want you to be weighing the water, whether it's frozen or not. It's just that when it's frozen, it ends up appearing on the scale.
Something sounds very fishy to me.
Yeah. Very good.
Oh, okay. That was our outdoor report.
That's a fish market report. Okay.
So what else you got to save yourself?
Well, I have a couple of things. You and I talked about this before, and it's actually you get incensed when you talk about this, but I'm sure you remember the anti-gay protesters who picket funerals of U.S. soldiers, and it's a little bit ironic today because you and I ran into a friend of ours whose son just safely, I'm glad to say, got back from Afghanistan, where he's
got back yesterday
in the Marine Corps, a couple of days ago. Well, this group comes to funerals of soldiers killed in action, and they protest, and they have placards and pickets and shout and thank God for dead soldiers and discussing stuff like that. Some time ago, the father of a deceased soldier who was killed in action brought a lawsuit against these protesters and won in a jury award $11 million in damages because he suffered emotional distress. The case went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, and the U.S. Supreme Court in an 8-1 decision threw out the lawsuit based upon First Amendment grounds.
You know, the emotion, I mean, there's tremendous emotional suffering by the parents whose son or daughter is either injured, maimed, or unfortunately suffers the ultimate price you can pay for a country that you love, the death of one of your loved ones. And there are those emotions. And deep down in our heart, you know, we want people not to suffer. They're suffering enough. On the other hand, this country was built, and this is one of those decisions that's, quote, very unpopular, I'm sure. On the other hand, this country was built on the concept of, in most instances, unless there's a clear and present danger of some type of an injury, that there is a First Amendment. I mean, it's the same problems about the issue of whether or not the Nazis could march in Muskogee, Illinois.
Right.
Those tough factual issues make one think that there's something wrong with the court. On the other hand, that's what the Constitution allows, and that's the way it's been interpreted for political speech as opposed to business-type speech.
Well, you're absolutely right. You know, and Justice Roberts, Chief Justice Roberts, wrote the decision, and he said, "Funeral picketing, quote, is certainly hurtful, and its contribution to public discourse may be negligible, but nevertheless, free speech, even hurtful free speech, has to be protected."
Well, then, but let me take it one step further. How are some governments allowed to ban certain type of books in a public library, which is another issue that it's always delved into, that there are school boards banning books in libraries, there are library boards banning books in libraries. Isn't that another form of censorship? And how do they get away with that, or do they get away with that?
Well, I think public libraries do have the ability to choose which books.
No, the book's on the shelf. It's on the shelf. Some citizen comes in and says,
then they take them out.
It's a horrible book. I don't like what it does. Do
you know where that's happened in libraries? I mean, recently?
All you do is go Google, banning books, and you'll find all those. I'm sure.
Well, remember the old saying when we were younger, banned in Boston. In Boston, the city of Boston had an amazing habit of banning literature or films, for that matter.
Yeah, we haven't answered my question. How are they allowed to do this? Are libraries allowed to take...
Certainly school libraries can do it. As much as I think it's horrible and ridiculous, especially when you take into consideration, and maybe we shouldn't take into consideration this, but especially when you take into consideration some of the books that are banned. I mean, these are classic American literature books written in the 19th century, and yet they're taken off the school book shelf.
Well, forget about children. So we're away from children.
Because they are treated differently.
There's special rules that apply to the tender young children, although most of our young gangs today are composed of tender young children.
And those are the kids we don't want reading those books, right?
Yeah, well, based on the reports they're getting in school, they're probably not even in school or reading the books. But let's get back to the reality. Let's go to the adults. Are we able to ban in the public library books that are generally for adults? Can we pull them out of the library? We don't like this one. We don't like that one. This one's not good.
Well, in the theory that not every book can be placed into a library, and libraries, county libraries or city libraries have an obligation to choose the books that they do stock and place on the shelves. I think that as a matter of fact, they're going to take some books off the shelf. Maybe they take them off for the wrong reason. Maybe they don't give a reason.
So you can take the book off the shelf if you don't tell the true reason about it. But so you can lie, cheat, and steal, and you're okay. But once you say, I don't want to take the book off because it's pro this or pro that, or
I didn't exactly say that. I said maybe you don't even give a reason, and you end up without the book on the shelf. That's a very interesting question. I want to talk about it some
more. You're going to research that out too?
In the 30 seconds that we're off the air. We're going to come back. We're going to take a break. When we do come back, you'll be calling us at 1-800-405-4222. That's toll-free. And my old law partner here, Stephen, says that everybody who calls in is going to get a gift certificate for dinner for two for a restaurant of our choice.
Or we might let them on the air. Right now the screener's probably screening them.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll be back in a minute, and we'll be taking your calls. 1-800-405-4222.